Oh, sorry.
All right. Hey, let's welcome back to the Go for CEO channel, where we bring you CEOs, founders, entrepreneurs, and entrepreneurs and stories around the world. We're starting to expand this thing worldwide. We've had people from Australia and from Ireland, and obviously the good old US of A. And tonight, or today, we're going to be able to have one of the most powerful women I've met on Clubhouse. She's really has this great sense on stage and shares deep from the heart of why she built her business. So you're going to have a special treat today. Thank you so much, Miss Joyce Johnson from the Y Sales Network. Welcome to the Go for CEO channel.
Oh, thank you, John. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be
Awesome.
here.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you on and really kind of share the nooks and crannies, right? I know I've seen you not only on Clubhouse stages, but I've kind of done some research behind you. You know, you've been on real stages and you're doing a lot of great things in the sales network and really teaching people worldwide. So let's get into, the way that a lot of our interviewees start off is sharing a little bit of the story of what the ideation was. How did you kind of come up with the idea? Where did that come from? What was your experience? And then we'll dive into everything else. So take it away.
Well, yeah, John. So spent over 25 years in the corporate space, selling to, I say on behalf of some of the largest brands in the world, to some of the largest brands in the world, in several different industries. I've probably sold in 4 industries, 10 vertical markets. And as I began to think about the next chapters of my life, I knew that I wanted to leave corporate. I founded a couple other businesses and I wanted to just go back to entrepreneurship. And so I said to myself, well, Joyce, what is it that you offer, right? What is it that the world needs from you? How can you marry the two? So I initially started by marrying my thought of mentorship in the sales environment. And so I wanted to take that mentorship, just not from college students and young sales professionals, but to business owners, because I had done a lot of business coaching with small business owners. And I understand that often small business owners start a business because we want to solve a problem, right? We're great problem solvers, or we want to monetize a hobby that we have, or maybe just become a business owner. But either way, when I was coaching these businesses in the past, I noticed one commonality, and that's that they had operation plans, some of their business plans that included marketing and, like I said, operations and supply chain and just different things, but no one ever thought about their sales strategy and how they really was going to sell their product. And so for me, a lover of sales and passionate about sales, I always say that everything in the global economy begins with a sell, an exchange of service or products. And so I thought to myself, aha, and I knew that that's what I wanted to build. I took a couple of years building it. Honestly, I did not expect to launch this business until the year that we're sitting in right now. And so I started it building the brand in 2017. And but then in 2019, I decided that I would jump June 2019 and start just go solo and begin building a business and launch it for 2020. And that's we're here.
Neat. So tell us a little bit about, because I think a lot of people nowadays, especially with the whole great resignation, going on, it is 2022. So everybody knows this if they see this 20 years from now. So, it's interesting that, you had a corporate background, right? And a lot of people, are corporate this, corporate that, really, but it's still human beings, right? Running the corporations and you had this career that you really built up and did a lot of great things in it. So what were maybe 2 or 3 things that you brought from that corporate experience that now you said to yourself, boy, as an entrepreneur, I'm going to make sure that I do have these 3 things or 4 things that could really help to start your business?
I'm happy you asked me that, because one thing that I talk about when I'm pitching small business owners on my master class is that if you want to be big business and if you want to do business with big business, you have to operate the way that big business does, right? So being able to be a part of the top brands and work for the top brands in the world in their particular industry, I understand the operations of big business, what it takes to sell to them, the structure, what they expect from people selling to them, what they expect to, from their sellers. And so that operational piece, I think a lot of I operate with excellence at all time. I'm always thinking that we want to put the best out there, right? We want to support the best. I really focus on the whole customer experience. And I think I learned the customer experience throughout my career is what really glues the customer to you and builds that long retention relationship. I think a lot of times in small businesses, we think about getting that one customer, getting that one deal. How is that going to happen? And I always think from a retention standpoint. I think long-term relationships with my customers. And I think I learned that from my corporate experience.
That's neat. And look, when you have a one-time mentality, unfortunately, you might have a one-shot business, right? So
Right.
it's interesting to really put that together. And how do companies stay around for 25, 30, 50 years? A lot of times it's because they've learned that mastery of that next level sale, that deepening of the relationship and all that good stuff, right? So interesting
Absolutely.
stuff. So let's get to the point where, you're on your own, you're ideating, you're kind of doing this masterful thing. And then you say to yourself, wow, sales is where I want to be. And that's kind of where your passion point is. But let's be honest, many people out there are like, I hate sales, right? All that type of stuff. And they don't really understand that it's really just conversations, right?
Right.
So tell us how you started to put a plan together. Was there things that you said to yourself, okay, I can teach X, I could teach Y, and then I'm going to be able to do seminars, or do I want to do webinars? Do I want to do tools? Like, what was the actual business model?
So for me, I have a communications background. I was a journalism student, and I'll back up a little bit and say something personal about myself. So I grew up in Galveston, Texas, which is a small island 45 minutes south of Houston. And so Houston is my hub. I also went to college 45 minutes north of Houston at Peruvian University. So I was a journalism student in high school as well college. I studied communication journalism and English. And so I've always been on the foundation piece that we're going to inform, educate, and engage our audience, because that's what you learn on that foundation of journalism. And so even when you're writing your newspaper articles and things, you're writing the outline, and everything is on how you're going to inform your audience, educate your audience, and then engage them. And so I've always stuck with that. So for that reason, when I started the business, the first profit center for me was going to be events. So as you said, we did webinars. We had a conference scheduled, and then COVID hit and we had to pivot. So we still had our conference, but it became a virtual conference versus being on the island of the Bahamas like we wanted it to. And so we do a lot of things, our monthly webinars, our monthly blogs, the conference. As I said, that was the first profit center to inform people of what we're doing, educate them about sales and the sales process. I'm also an 8-time author. So my first book was Why Sales for College Students. Then I went to Top 10 Sales Tips for College Grads, Why Sales for Athletes. So I began to put educational tools out there, right? So informing people that, here's sales. I know you think it's a dirty word, but it's amazing. And it's an amazingly important thing for your business, right? Just informing them about it. And then here's why. And that's the education piece. And then now what you need to do to change your life by embracing sales, that's the engagement. And so that second piece of our profit center for the business is just that, the training. So I went to a studio last year and I recorded all of the videos and things. There are a few Zoom videos because when I got home, I had to fly to Atlanta to do it. We had a few gaps and I did some Zooms, but for the most part, it was all filmed in a studio. And so we have the online courses. So if someone feels strong about sales, they can go take a one-off course. They can do the master class. And now we're going to have the boot camp. Those are our engagement pieces. And the other part of the business that I'm launching now, the Third Profit Center, is to be able to go and train sales teams, help business owners hire teams and train them.
Oh, wow. So you're starting to get depth into the other areas of business, right?
Absolutely.
So really interesting, right? You had some content with the books. Now the books came during your corporate life, or was it in this 3-year period that you kind of launched and then had some books out there into the marketplace?
During my corporate life. So I
Okay.
I wrote my first book in 2017. I launched the first book in 2017. And I purposely did a lot of things around that time frame. So I was number one in a corporate space amongst all my peers. I just saw the reminders. They finished that year at 140% in the global market space, and so I wanted to not just cheer that on, but also I thought it'd be a great time to mirror my first book and to really begin my brand, build my brand outside of corporate. And so I was very intentional about building that brand. I've always been very protective of my brand at work, internally and externally, as I say. But I really began to multiply what I was doing and build that brand. I'd also started by writing some articles for LinkedIn. When LinkedIn first started allowing people to write articles, they actually reached out to me because I was pretty active and gave me an opportunity to do that test model. And so I had those articles written as well. And a lot of those things gave me the foundation to begin with my books.
That's so interesting. You know, a lot of people, don't know, let's say, what to write or what to do. And it seemed like you just kind of came from in the inside of your soul and really kind of shared the things that you'd already been experiencing and put that out there. Right. And then you got to test pilot a pretty big network, right? I hear LinkedIn's pretty big. So,
I think that's pretty good.
yeah,
Yeah.
they're doing pretty good. So neat. So you become kind of a pioneer in that space. You know, you've got some content, you've got some books going out there, and so tell us about that first, 1 to 3 clients. Like, what are you doing to be able to, I guess, convince that client? Because now you're on your own, right? It's not necessarily
Right.
other departments bringing you business, depending on your work environment or that you had in corporate. What is it now that you as the individual went out to do to get that business?
Well, I'm utilizing my relationships, right?
Mhm.
And I did realize that a lot of my relationships while I was in corporate were my corporate friends, right? But they all
Mm.
sold to different companies and companies that maybe I didn't know about or didn't have a relationship with. So I decided to leverage my network. And what I mean by that is, I'll actually say to begin with, when I began to leverage my corporate network, a lot of the companies that I had done business with, maybe thought, oh, well, no, Joyce, we support you, but at a distance, right? And so I had to begin to just start doing some heavy networking virtually, which was challenging and then leverage my network by building, educating my consulting friends and different people about what I do. People knew what I did. They know that I operate with excellence. I've been had a membership and been held positions in organizations where, I like to say I always leave things better than I found them. And so people know my work ethic. And it's better to have other individuals say things about you than it is what you say about yourself. So
Mhm.
I really honed into that piece and then was able, like, for instance, my cohort, the first time I did a test model on the master class, that class was filled by other consultants and what they knew of me and wanted to bring their clients that was spending money with them. They entrusted them with Joyce because they know my work ethic, they know that my integrity, they know that I put great information and products out. And that's how I filled that room.
Man, incredible. So really, it wasn't necessarily a company, it was your contacts, your relationships, and putting it out there that you had this new way of kind of sharing with people sales strategies and things that you've been able to do. So awesome. So let's get through that, right? So are you challenged by the fact that you need to find a location? Are you wearing all the hats is what I'm trying to ask, so that people
Yes.
understand kind of what you're doing, right? So
Yes. I did have an admin that started with me and was with me for about 18 months. And I've shifted now to she went on to build her business supporting people like me. And I knew that that's what she wanted to do, right? She wanted to understand everything that I did so that she could start her business. And then I have my social media strategists on the team. I have my web and SEO and website guys. So I have a small team. I also had a PR team at some point to just put things out about the company and myself. And so I average a couple of interviews a week, and that helps also. But when you think about everything, and going into, I'm tired of being in the home office right now. This banner you see, this is actually was a travel banner. It's an 8 foot by 8 foot banner that I just put here in the home office now. And so when I think about moving out of the office, I've looked at office space and then I've kind of come in. I'm like, maybe it's not time. I've looked at office space. I also had a relationship with a local college where I really wanted to house Y Sales Network. and their entrepreneurship program. They haven't opened things back up yet, but we're still talking. And I'm also going to be going to other colleges. And so it's not so much needing an office space for the company, for the business. But when I train, I like to be able to train that master class in person and have a facility where people can go to. But right now I've been renting spaces at the co-op, these co-work spaces. They have big conference rooms and things. I've rented spaces there. And then I'm taking the next master class to a hotel.
Nate. So you're starting to expand the locations. You've got some concentrated areas. So what's the I guess the monetary platform side of things? So how do you bring in the money? Is it is it per event? Do you have any type of monthly recurring type of membership that you do? What are you doing for those side of things?
Well, initially, like I said, we started the profit center with events and doing events. And so
Mm.
now I have the training. With the training, we have several things. We have the online trainings that we market, that people can go and buy one training for $197. There's 6 of them out there. They could also purchase the master class. We're starting the boot camp. And with the boot camp, you mentioned subscription program. We are also launching a subscription program. So we're putting together all the marketing materials for that now. And we put together the platform on what that's going to look like for individuals. And so, yeah, we're launching that. So we'll have all those different profit centers within the training, within that training piece.
It's really interesting to be able to now scale out and, put some
Yeah.
different areas of monetization, right? A lot of times people don't know, like, hey, I take this experience, like you just did, and then you networked with your sphere of influence, but then, you had an event, right? And then you have some success at that, but then you have to put all these other areas and hats that you're wearing. So tell us a little bit of the insights of how you started to organize yourself, right? And really, since maybe I'm assuming in corporate, maybe you had a team, but now it's like you and the assistant that you had. How do you start to organize yourself as an entrepreneur?
Pretty much the same way. People have asked me often about my success in corporate and just managing the amazingly large books of business that I was responsible for. And,
Mm.
and then also I was like vice president of our African American Business Resource Group and volunteered the
Mm.
women's resource groups and things, and very active. And so, I'm a master delegator. I believe focus on your core and outsource everything else. So if it isn't the core piece of the business, I'm going to outsource it. Even with my team, I tell them, look, if if you're working on something and it's taking you too much time, outsource it. You know, if we need to get Fiverr or hire someone, a business card, whatever we need to do, outsource it. Let me know what it's going to cost, and let's do that. Let's not spend our time spinning our wheels on things that's a little bit outside our wheelhouse, right? So the logo designs and sometimes marketing materials, advertising. Last year I hired a company to do marketing of the conference, and then we also hired we invested in one of the platforms, which WOVA, I think it's WHOA, one of those event platforms, so that we can continue to focus on the business and focus on what we needed to do day to day.
Neat. So, look, you're taking us through different levels of the way that you started thinking and started growing. And in the Go for CEO community, we really want to, learn about those things and kind of understand, because it's all different industries I've had on the channel. So I really appreciate you kind of going deeper and letting people know, what are some areas that they can really kind of concentrate on. Is there anything that kind of stumbled you? Right. Was there anything that kind of caught you by surprise as you've been growing the last few years?
Well, COVID stumbled me. I think,
That's
if that wasn't a stumble, I don't know what is.
Yeah.
So when I think about so when I mentioned my profit centers for the business, when I wrote out the business, the profit centers was first the events, second was the training, and then third was the consulting. But the consulting is always gone place. When you talk about me bringing in consistently bringing in money, that's been with the consulting in other businesses, right? And but we're expanding on that consulting piece by going in and actually acting like the sales team for companies.
Mm.
Now, so COVID, I had an event that I did. And the reason I started with events is because I've always been successful at throwing events. So for instance, I had an event in November 2019 that was very profitable. And so as I'm working on the conference for June of 2020, I took a hit and I had to make a decision because we went from in-person to virtual. And so I
Mm.
had to make a decision if I still stuck with that conference. And if I knew going in that it was possible to be taking that hit. And so financially, and I had to say, well, I'm going to go ahead and move forward with it because we need to be consistent. We need to still, pay our speakers. We need to operate with excellence, and we need to build this for the platform. If we crumble the platform this early on, it's not going to be good. So that was my thought process for that. And also, I maybe have an advantage over some people. When I started my business, I looked at my finances and things, and I said, well, if I don't earn a penny for 4 or 5 years or whatever, I'll be good, right? I can't say that everyone thought that through when they started a business. I know I've started a business before where I was laid off from corporate. I went through a divorce, many challenges, and I just sort of started consulting for a little bit because I wanted my freedom. I was helping my brother with my niece, just many life things I had to make. And so I didn't think it through at that time, but I had the benefit and the foresight to be able to do that, the privilege to be able to do that with this business.
No, and that's big, right? So you kind of led us towards funding, which is, always a big deal. I know on
Yes.
Clubhouse, we've been in rooms that, you have these aspiring entrepreneurs and they're looking for funding, or they're looking for investors, or they're looking for ways to kind of go to the next month, almost the next 30 days, right? So
Yes.
it's neat that you have, that cushion, but it doesn't sound like you've allowed that to also be kind of a safety net. It sounds like you've always been very proactive. You've put the pedal to the metal, and you're ahead of the game. Would you say you're ahead of the game as far as pace for where you want to be, or kind of where are you at, in the point that
Mm,
you're at right now?
Some people may feel I'm ahead of the game, right? From the outside
Yeah.
looking in, but no one could ever set a larger goal for me than I'm going to set for myself.
Mhm. That's
Right.
true.
So even in corporate, if I was given a goal, I'm thinking about my stretch goal. I'm thinking about what I need, what I want to earn, how much I want to save, where I want to travel, and those things. So no, I honestly, I don't feel that I'm ahead of the game at this point. I think that I'm steady at this point, and I think that I am, I have business closing consistently, which is important. But does the amount of revenue come in that I had thought that I would have at this point when I made the decision to start this business? No. And a lot of that was, due to COVID. I had to check and adjust quite a bit, as we all have. And I had to delay some things. And then from there, I thought about, do I need to delay this? And what, several times I had to go back to the drawing board. I even changed I felt like I need to relaunch the company because initially also I was heavily focused on my young professionals and my college students, because college students are my favorite people in the world. I love mentoring them and helping them go from college life into the workplace. And so I had to curve that a little bit and focus more on B2B. And in this area where I thrive, I had to ask myself, what do I know better than anything? That's closing B2B.
Yeah.
And it just is. So I had to do a reset, so to speak, for that. And then what I did was, for my college students, I created a cohort and a foundation, Y Sales Network Student Foundation. And so we are going to have a cohort in that foundation where we work with college students over a period of time and help them with that navigating where they are now and getting into the workplace. And so, so I had to check and adjust.
I like it. I like it. I will say, I think what I caught most of that last part was that, a lot of times as an entrepreneur, you start a business and there is a bit of that, like, hey, I want to help these types of people. Right. And you just said you had a big passion, and you still do, for college students, but you knew that the money was at B2B. So you need to
Right.
get the money to then circle back and still have these foundational things that you could do for the college students, because not many college students are probably being able to afford Joyce Johnson and what she can really bring to the table, right, on a personal, individual level. So neat stuff. So look, it's really exciting to
Well,
hear some. What's go ahead?
no, I was going to say, well, actually, I started speaking at colleges, right? So
Yeah,
the speaking circuit was speaking at colleges, but they just weren't, they were at a standstill, right?
sure.
And so I had to just, make some adjustments. But we all work. I think we all work. We love what we do when we work, right? We do. But I think a lot of times the work allow us to, feed our passions as well, right? If I could, when I retire, I would probably be like much like my mother. She spends her days volunteering,
Mm.
and if I could spend a half of my days or most of my days doing that, just doing great work, I would do that.
That's neat. That's neat. Well, look, I mean, those are all foundational things and the principles that you've been able to live by. You brought up your mother, so why don't we go there? We
Okay.
don't talk about family too much, but I really love that you just said that. I lost my mom in 2014, but it was someone that I saw that came from another country, and then I'm first generation here. So you just laid it out there. Mom obviously influenced you. So why don't you share with the Go Pursue community what mom has really done and kind of laying the foundation of who Joyce Johnson is?
Thank you. And I apologize. Sorry to hear about your mom, but, so my mom is a very hard worker. She's a retired RN, a registered nurse. She was a registered nurse.
Mhm.
And so, she's always just worked hard, but she still volunteered. I went to early vote yesterday, as I always do, and I
Mm.
shared people that my mom was poll watching and had us sitting on the floor in spaces with our little brown bag lunches way before it became popular, right? And she was in a bowling league. We would go, once a week and watch her bowl, and things of that nature. But she's always been a strong advocate for people in the community. She feeds the homeless every fifth Saturday. And she's, on the finance board for the church, and she's a commissioner now in Galveston. And that came from her wanting to really focus on people and housing after Hurricane Ike. They weren't bringing back housing enough for other people that weren't as privileged or had benefits that we do. And through her work, it was just being recognized in the community. And then she was asked to be on the housing board. So I think, she built a foundation with us that we are, as they say, I'm on my brother's keeper. Yes, I am. And that we focus on our family and on our community. We have a very close family. And everyone in my family, all of my cousins, all of us, we volunteer and we give back to the community because we were taught that early on. We're also not, I would say, like people say, oh, well, Joyce, are you going to move or do you sell your house? How do I've lived in different states and things. So like, and I say, I'm going to move, like, oh, you're going to get rid of your fund. No. And it's because we're growing up and we have a hurricane and we get ready to pack up the car to leave. And my mom was tell my siblings, hey, you can take 3 toys and 3 change of clothes. And we're going to take our family photos and our insurance policies. And so for me now, my most precious possessions are my family photos. They are, you
Mm.
know, than anything else. Everything else can be replaced. And she taught us that. So even when you're building a business, you have a job or what have you, as long as you wake up in your health and your strength, your right mind, you can still move forward.
I love it. I love it. And thank you for, sharing something personal with your mom. It's really cool to hear, those attributes, right? And then the family dynamic, and that how big is Galveston by the way?
At one point I don't think we're back to 50,000 people yet.
Okay.
We're not. And it's a small island where you can walk around anywhere you want to go. And so for that reason, I noticed my brother, my sister, and I, when we move to these large communities, we always still move into one little space where we know everyone in our space and we know everything in our space. And I think that just comes from growing up in a small town. It was really great growing up there. It's an island, so it's, you have the beach and you can just walk around and have fresh air every day, and warm weather for most part. So we, rode our bicycles outside on Christmas, and so 80-degree weather, and so it was great growing up there.
So, when I think of Texas, I don't think an island. So you've educated me today. I think I've heard of Galveston. I just never, I guess, thought of it. I've gone to South Padre Island and Dallas and some other places to visit, but I'm gonna have to check out Galveston. You're
You
exciting me.
will, you will. Galveston is one of the most visited tourism locations
Oh,
in,
neat.
in the
So,
U.S. That year over year. My mother loves to show people around. She considers herself a historian, but yeah, it's well known, unfortunately, for the 1900 storm that almost wiped out everyone that lived on the island, and of
oh,
course, yeah, and so a lot of history there. June 19th is where the emancipation was read. to free the slaves in Texas, last point. And so it has a lot of history.
No, that's amazing. So, a lot of times we don't go necessarily political or views and stuff like that. We're really kind of concentrated on the
Oh
business
yeah.
side. But you just shared something really cool. June 19th happens to be, ladies and gentlemen, Go for CEO community. It is Black History Month, and love that Joyce, gave me a chance to interview her today, and the Y Sales Network. Anything you want to share on that side? Obviously, that powerful message, what Martin Luther King did, and all the other obviously leaders that have been, your mom, leadership in a community like that. Anything that you'd want to share from that point of view?
Just try to. We all have biases, right? The theme for this year is breaking the bias. It's the theme for Women International Day, which is coming up on March 8th. And I used it for the theme for Black History Month. And I think we all have our biases that we grew up with, and we just have to work on them, to be better. And so I like people to keep in mind the theme of this year is just breaking the biases and being able to kind of, check ourselves, do some self checks, not so much checking others, but just self checks, to know better is to do better. And to be able to really just spend some time with all of our friends. We talk about diversity and inclusion a lot in a corporate workspace and in all workspaces, but then we go home and we don't have that same diversity and inclusion that we have all the days of the week. I have a term I use often, but you guys don't judge me, but I say, segregated Sunday, right? Because every day we want inclusion and diversity except for Sunday, and we really need to do better on that day.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. So, well, I appreciate obviously diverging from the CEO, Go for CEO community theme typically to really share some knowledge, and obviously love the story about your mom and her leadership and where the foundation came from. And then how big is your nucleus family, like brothers and sisters per se?
So my mom has of three of us,
Okay.
and so my mom comes from a big family. It was 10 of them initially, and then a solid
Oh wow.
seven. And then so all of the grandchildren of we grew up almost like siblings, like living on the same blocks in some cases and things like that. And so we're all very close. All of my first cousins on my mom's side. We get together, we're due for a cousin meeting. We need to have a cousin meeting, but yeah, we're all very close because we basically almost grew up like siblings because my mother lost her parents at a young age, and
Mhm.
so they really bound it together, and they're really close.
No, that's awesome. And guess what? You chose sales because, man, with a big family like that, and having to fight for something, you got to convince some people, right? You get
You got
you.
to convince the people. And, and most of my family's in the medical field. So Galveston, another, note on Galveston, Texas, it had one of the largest, best medical centers for a very long time until Hurricane Ike hit Galveston. The best
Mhm.
plastic surgeons, the best general surgeons. My mother started her career in emergency and then went to pediatrics and then plastic surgery.
Mm.
And so, my mom's was a nurse, my grandmothers were nurses, my aunts were nurses. A lot of my cousins are nurses. I have two of my male cousins. They have masters in nursing, and one runs a hospital facility here in the local Houston area. And so I skipped my stepfather was in dialysis, so he was in dialysis, and my mom was a registered nurse. And so a lot of medical people in my family, and I don't know how my brother, sister, and I escaped it, but my sister is in education and training. She is a behavior and reading specialist. And then my brother just retired young, but he just retired. He was the assistant deputy director for parole for the state of Texas.
Oh wow. Okay. Interesting. Well, hey, look, it's so cool to hear, the dynamic of a family led by a matriarch type person like your mom, and then obviously the expansion of the grandkids that were like siblings and all that good stuff. And then hearing the journey, right? You had a 25 plus year career in corporate world, and then now you go on your own, you get hit a little bit by COVID, right? You transition, you pivot, you do some things, but you're always putting out there that excellence as you've talked about. So the last three questions that we typically ask our interviewees, Joyce, is C is for client experience. E is for engagement. I used to say employee engagement, but I just want to talk about just engagement because it's, I'm waiting for it to hear it because, I'm sure doing business with you is pretty thrilling, pretty engaging. So I want to hear what the secret is that you bring to the table. And then O is for operational excellence, which you've talked about several times during the interview here. So for client experience, what do you think the Y Sales Network really brings to the table when people go to experience doing business with you?
I think they're going to experience that personal touch, right? And they're going to know that someone cares about them and their business and their life and what's taking place with them. Very big on customer experience. I learned that through my corporate life. And one of my number 6 tool in the toolbox for sales is the customer experience, because the customer is, I think about the customer from the minute that we touch them until they leave, because if the customer has a great experience, then you build a great referral base. So the customer experience is very important because the customer is going to tell people about that experience. So for the minute that someone touches my organization, I'm looking at everything, right? From the minute they hit the website to if they sign up for the newsletter. I want our newsletters to be consistent. I want to make sure we're feeding them great information, that if people want to get on my calendar, that they know that they can do that, and that when I'm with someone, they have my undivided attention.
Interesting, interesting. So you really kind of set that standard at a high level. And as you said, you're worried about even someone visiting your website, reading a newsletter,
Yes.
experiencing all the way through. So really interesting stuff. So then engagement, well, I get a sense of it because of that family background, because that mom leadership, because of that, the way that you've been able to be with your siblings and the community. But, what would you say is why people engage with you?
I think because one, I do operate with that excellence, but also I think the human piece of me, like sometimes people think that, what I a lot of times when I hang up with someone and they're like, thank you. I can't believe you spent this time, right? Like now I do this room on Clubhouse, women only room that Coach Ron wanted to do. And and the theme of it is don't give up. And so last week we did the Amazon story. This week we did the Spanx story. And I mean, we've have individuals in the room crying and really, sharing their story. But they know that when they share that story that I'm listening. They know that I'm listening. And I know I can remember this one lady, Tina, that shared her story. And she's already working with a consultant, really doesn't need a consultant. She was just having a moment. She was having a day, and it's okay to have a day. And I told her, I said, I'll give you my link to get on my calendar. And I said, it's not, maybe we don't even talk about business. Maybe we just have a virtual glass of wine together.
Mm.
And so I think I have a knack of connecting with people, making them feel comfortable and feeling that they can tell me anything and share anything with me because they know that I care.
I love it. I love it. I used to bartend in my young 20s, and it was always interesting, not only just obviously the liquor kind of loosens things up, but just
Yes.
being across the bar and sensing sometimes that somebody just needed to talk, right? They were on a
Right.
trip or whatever. I remember working at like hotel bars or regular bars and stuff, and just having great conversations and just really learning about people, right? Kind of sharpening that skill of listening. So interesting stuff. So last one is operational excellence, and the Y Sales Network seems like you've got, everything pinpointed well. So what are maybe one or two secrets that you would share with someone when they're running their business to have operational excellence?
For me, I'm a royalty program person.
Mm,
Right? I love the royalty programs. I frequent the same hotel brands, the same airline brands. When I live in a community, I go to the same restaurants, and it's because it's about that experience and how they operate and how they function, with me. And so I always think about what experience would I like to have. And because I like to have the very best experience, I want to create the very best experience. And so when I'm creating something, for instance, with the sales training program, everyone said, Joyce, why are you, first of all, why was it taking long to get it done? Second of all, why are you just not doing some Zooms, right? And putting it out there? Just go ahead and throw it together already. Just put it out there. And I'm like, nope. I've paid great money for trainings and things, and then people just send me to a Google Doc file, and give me information, after I paid $2,500 for it. They've all, and there are some Zoom videos, and they're not very well done or informative. And that was not going to be the product that I put out.
Mm.
So I want my customer experience to be an experience that I could appreciate also.
Nate. So I guess part of operational excellence to you is really just caring at each moment of how that goes through the experience, gets back to the operational side, how you move through each function of Y Sales Network and what you've been able to build. So awesome stuff.
Absolutely.
I love it. I love it. Well, Joyce, super humbled to have you on. Thank you for obviously making the time, and the Y Sales Network, and obviously Black History Month. We're trying to honor on the Go for CEO channel, interviewing Black just owned businesses and just entrepreneurs and people that are making things happen. CEOs, founders, entrepreneurs, and intrapreneurs. Any other.
Thank you for that.
No, I appreciate it. So, any final words or words of wisdom that you'd like to share with the community?
Like I said, our theme for this month on the Women Only Small Business Room on Clubhouse was don't give up. And I've been sharing stories because a lot of times, as we know, 80% of a lot of businesses fail after 2 years. And, it's a working plan. Amazon wasn't profitable until about 7 years, right? But they IPO'd in their 3rd year. When I talk about Sarah Blakely and her Spanx story, it takes a lot of hard work. And I just say, don't give up. You may need to check and adjust, right? As I say often, inspect what you expect. And if it's not happening like I did, it's a working plan. It's not concrete. It's a working plan. I love the Colonel and how he, from Kentucky, how he had the hotel and he had the restaurant. He had, the railroad came through, and so they didn't have to make other change. Listen and read other stories about other true entrepreneurs in history and current day time, and just know that we have to check and adjust. And, and we may actually have to go and do some other things to get funding or work or what have you, but don't abandon your dream, because you may abandon it 1 month and the next month may be an opportunity for you to move forward.
No doubt.
And ask for help. Yeah, don't abandon it. Don't give up, but ask for help. Don't do it alone.
No, yeah, it can be a lonely road for sure. So what's some of the ways that people can contact you and make sure that we know that, they could reach out to you?
So they can connect to me on LinkedIn. That's a great space for me. I'm LinkedIn. I guess I get that from my corporate space. I'm on all social platforms at I am Joyce Johnson. We also have Y Sales Network, WHY Sales with an S, network.com. You can go there. We're also, Y Sales Network is on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram also. So any of those platforms.
You heard Joyce, so reach out to her, leave a comment on the video. And look, if you haven't subscribed to the Go for CEO channel, I want you to subscribe right now. Yeah, right now, because look, we keep on bringing you CEOs, founders, entrepreneurs, intrapreneurs, not the names that you feel like, oh man, I've heard this person a million times, right? And they're so huge, but Joyce Johnson, who made a difference in Galveston, her mom made a difference. And then she went out to different areas and made a difference and is doing the right things to really build the Y Sales Network for you, for your business, and for the things that you're doing. So excited to have you subscribe, click like on this video, and leave a message again for Joyce. I think she'll interact with you.
Yes.
And hope, bring back some great and share this with this people. So thank you so much, Joyce, for being a part of the Go for CEO channel tonight.
Thank you, John. Thank you to the audience. Appreciate you listening, and please reach out to Y Sales Network.
All right.